So we're going to go here up where it says your contacts up here on your little tabs. You're going to hit contacts. And then we'll go ahead and click on your plus sign here. And then it's going to create a new contact form. So I have a bunch of borrower ones, so you're going to see that they're going to come up. What I normally complete will be this portion here.
Okay.
And I'm just going to make up a social.
Sure.
And then we'll put the address. So I'm just going to, of course, make up an address. This is when you put the zip code, you can skip through the city. Once you put the zip code, this is going to pop up the city, whether it's Artesia or Cerritos, of course, because that's the address on, you can choose that city and it'll give you the county. So you're going to hit OK.
Okay.
Then here we will hit save. And here you're going to see it says originate loan.
Okay.
Now, as I mentioned, I do have several. Because of course I do these trainings a lot. So it's going to pop up if, let's say, for instance, you do have a borrower who, for instance, bought with you, but now we're going to refinance. It will populate it here and it'll let you know when the loan was created. So you will see it here. So now that just basically means that you did have that borrower there. Now, let's say you have a common borrower who has a last name of whether it could be, Lopez, Munoz, Hernandez, especially as Latinos, like we have very, very common last names. It is going to populate them here. So you can click this first name one and it'll sort it through the first name so you can see if it's maybe yours. But, let's say like my husband, his common name is Juan Carlos Munoz, so that's extremely common, right? So it may not be yours, right? So if you know that you did not create one, you can hit here, create new. And here on loan folder, you're going to hit prospect.
Okay.
And then you'll hit continue. And it's going to go ahead and populate it.
Okay.
Okay. So it's going to go ahead and populate it. It's going to go ahead and open it. And then, so now I'm going to go ahead and just navigate through it. We have Candy that just came on. Hi, Candy. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and mute you guys since we're getting more people. So what we're going to go ahead and do is now once we've gone ahead and opened up our new client, we're going to go ahead and start navigating through this. Now, for me, since I do work internally, it's not going to auto-populate my loan officer. For you guys as loan officers, you guys want to go ahead and add yourselves here. And the reason for that is because when you guys do go to your pipeline, you want it to be findable, right? So we're going to go ahead and click this loan officer little microscope or your little lookup button. You can make it a little bit easier to find yourself by clicking your last name and then going ahead and navigating through this and finding yours. So for now, of course, I'm going to go ahead and put mine and hit OK. Again, for you guys that are just loan officers on this system, it'll auto-populate for you. For me, it doesn't do it because I wear several hats here. I do training, underwriting, and I did do processing, so that's why it doesn't auto-populate as a loan officer. From here, I go ahead and go to forms. I do click my show all in alpha and show all. And where I like to start is I like to start under your borrower summary origination. The reason for that is because a lot of the information that you're inputting here is going to populate to a lot of the other IRLA pages for you. So it's good to start here because it will complete a lot of these other IRLA pages. My way of navigating is borrower summary origination, IRLA lender 1, 2, 3, and 4. Of course, these are your pages, right? If you are going to be needing to do estimates, it will be your 2015 atomization. For now, we'll go ahead and again, all this is pretty self-explanatory. One of the things you do want to do is, let's say, for instance, you have a borrower who is a single person and they don't have a co-applicant, or let's say they do have a co-applicant, but it's like, let's say it's a brother and sister, father and son, mother, daughter, or mother, son, however you guys are doing it, just remember, if they're not a married couple, you're gonna have two separate borrowers. So here, if they're not a co-applicant, I'm sorry, a co-borrower, which is a spouse, you will click this little button here. The reason for that is it does complete certain, it auto-completes certain items on your Encompass, letting the system know there is no co-applicant. If you do have a co-applicant and you're completing a husband and wife on this application, on your lender page, is it lender? I'm sorry, on your early page 1, it will have a joint format. So you click this co-applicant form. Again, this is for husband and wife. If they are husband and wife and you do have a co-applicant, if there is no co-applicant, you can actually do it here as well. But usually I just complete it up here at the top to remind myself to let the system know there is no co-borrower or spouse on this. Now, for your co-op borrowers, for instance, let's say they're, brother and sister buying or whatnot, and you do need to add another, you do have your manage borrowers button up here. You would click this, you would hit your plus button, and then you start completing your individual's information here. This is more limited, but let's say we do have a borrower who, of course, we're going to put their social. I'll just make that up. And then we're going to hit close. Once I hit close, it'll automatically tell me that I'm working on borrower 1 of 2. So let's say, for instance, I made a mistake and let's say it was an engaged couple, but now they want to go ahead and go as husband and wife. You can move this. You can actually, let's say this was the wife, and you want to have her be the co-borrower now because she was his fiance, but now she's the wife. So now they want the application to be moved. We can highlight your borrower. We're going to hit move, and we will now move it here. Click move. It's going to let you know, do you want to swap it? Let's say yes. And then it'll say, okay. Now for this, you do want to go back here and delete this borrower. The reason for that is because it is going to continue to tell you do have 2 of 2, right? Because you just moved that borrower. So now we're going to click this and hit delete borrower co-pair and hit yes. Now it will move all the information over that you completed on your 1003. I'm sorry, it will move it over with your borrower. The only thing that I would suggest here is because in this case, let's say we ran the credit report separately, you are going to have to call MFI to merge them. So that's the only thing that you might have an issue with, but your liabilities, your income, your employment, all that will be moved over to your co-borrower. So if we hit close, you will now see that my borrower 2 is here. So that's what, and Encompass is super, super easy to navigate, and it really does help you be able to move your borrowers around. Let's say you made a mistake and you put the borrower 2 and their brother and sister and not spouses. Again, you can just simply click your little manage borrowers button here. You're going to highlight your borrower here. I'm sorry about that. And then you're going to hit the move on this section. Just make sure you guys are moving the correct borrower. So if you want to move borrower 1 or move borrower 2, let's just play around with moving borrower 1, because I want to show you guys that borrower 2 will stay as a co-borrower. So if you hit this borrower to move, you move him here, you move this. Yes, you want to swap it. You're going to notice here that your borrower 2 is going to stay as a co-borrower. So now you want to go up here and move this borrower up to this section here. So whenever you're moving borrowers, it's super simple to do it. You just want to make sure you're moving your borrowers to the correct spot. The reason for that is if I did not move it, I'm going to hit close for a section so I can hear it. If I did not move it, this borrower will remain here as a co-borrower. So that's one of the little tricks you guys can have. And again, you can add as many borrowers as you want as you go here. You just hit this little plus button and you can add a borrower 3. You know, of course, with each application, your borrower will have a borrower and co-borrower. And that's if you're going to decide to do husband and wife on one. So let's say borrower 3 is husband and wife. So we're going to put borrower 3, and we're going to put borrower 4. So now I have 3 borrowers, and if I go down here, all my borrowers are here. So that's a little trick about, I know we had a couple loan officers that were asking us how to add co-signers or co-borrowers to this, to the Encompass. So I wanted to jump into that first. So for, again, Encompass is super easy to navigate. I'm going to go ahead and just like complete it. You know, just making up stuff as I go. Now, keep in mind, guys, one of the things I do want to let you know is a lot of us like to, especially because we're used to the old 1003, is we like to put the phone numbers here under home phone. That, just a little hint, if it's the home phone is the cell phone, go ahead and place it there as well. And I'm going to tell you why. We have a system called Simple Nexus. Simple Nexus is incorporated with our Encompass. If you put a cell phone and an email address, and I'm going to just put my personal email address here, I'll put my cell phone. So in case it does pop up. So Simple Nexus is actually incorporated with our system. And what that does is once you hit save on your system, let's see if it does it. It's going to automatically populate. It probably didn't do it because it's a fake account, but no, so there you go. So there you go. So this is going to automatically populate and tell you, hey, you do have a matching borrower who completed the application on the app. Do you want to, select that borrower? If I hit select, it's actually going to import the information that they completed on the app already. Now, I started an app by my, as a borrower, acting like I was a borrower, to be able to go ahead and test out the system, right? And as you can tell, this is going to give you that option. Now, if your borrower did not select an app, so if I hit select, it's going to import some of the information for that borrower, right? So now it's going to change the information based on your application. Sorry about that. But let's say your borrower did not complete an app application, but you want them to receive the app. That when you enter the cell phone and email, it will populate a box and it'll state, do you want to send the borrower the application? It'll either text it to them or email it to them, depending on your request or format that you want to go ahead and populate. And the reason for that is, like, let's say, for instance, they want to upload documents, or they want to complete, the e-sign or e-consent for their disclosures, for their loan estimate when you guys send it out locked, for their closing disclosure. This system is going to trigger that task on their app. So this is why when you guys do have borrowers, and I know we're used to using the home phone number, make sure you guys putting it in the cell phone, and of course their email address is correct. Basically for that, they're going to be receiving updates as we go. Internally, your operations team is going to be doing milestones right here. Let's say we have process initial disclosures, and that is finished. At this point, it's telling me that I have to complete the application to move the milestone. So, okay, it won't let me. But once I hit the milestone, my borrower is going to get an email or a message stating, hey, your application is now in initial disclosures. What do you expect in this part of your timeline, of course, right? In this milestone. When it goes to processing, submitted means it's submitted in underwriting, and you'll see that they're highlighted in black once they are actually moved through milestones. So whenever it is not bolded, it has not been moved by milestone, right? But your borrower will get milestone updates. So that's the cool part of making sure that you guys have your application fully completed, because it starts with this here. cell phone numbers, email addresses, they start being able to receive messages and updates. Again, the system is pretty self-explanatory. A lot of people did ask me what to put here. It's just seeking a mortgage, and it's normally 90 days. And the reason we put 90 days is normally our application, our documentation and everything is always good for about 90 days. So we let them know that so long as their income doesn't drop or their liabilities don't increase, their application can remain, pretty much good for 90 days, valid for 90 days. Applying for a mortgage, you don't need to complete this, we'll complete that for you, but if you do want to, this is just the same information as this. The company information is the company agent. Of course, here you want to go ahead and complete your address. Now, it did not pull over from the other page only because the other page is your contact. This here will be the address where they're at right now. If they're living there for, of course, let's say 1 year, 2 months, we want to go ahead and give it an additional address here, a former address. If it doesn't apply, you just click the does not apply. A lot of us like to skip through this does not apply, but just remember, guys, if we don't complete these little things, for instance, I ran DU one time and it kept giving me an error about residency. And I'm like, what is it talking about? It's asking for your years and months. Even if let's say they're only there for 2 months, you want to put a 0. Why? I don't know. The system has its little, niches that it is requesting certain information. So you want to make sure you're inputting that information here. Excuse me. The next thing that you do want to do, let's say, for instance, your borrower, let's say one of your co-borrowers, we're going to stay with borrower 2 here right now. But let's say your co-borrower here is only a co-signer. They already own a home. They're just helping your borrower buy a house. Just make sure you guys are going down here and putting their their property will be an investment. That way your DTI will read correctly for that borrower. And you are putting their housing information here. So let's say they own their home. Their housing information will go here. Not 17,000. And then we'll hit close. So that is going to start reading my DTI once I start putting income in. And then we're going to click own. So now my co-borrower or co-signer is a co-signer to this loan, and it's going to read your DTI correctly. If you don't place that on there here, remember, it's not going to read your DTI correctly because it's not picking up that your borrower does have housing. So let's say they rent. They're not actually, they don't actually own a home. They rent, they live with their parents, but they're co-signing. It won't pick up your DTI. Normally, what I tell our LOs is just put $1. And the reason for that is because it'll pick up your DTI correctly, saying that, yes, this borrower is a co-signer to this loan, to this, whether purchase or rate and term refi, whatnot. Because, of course, we can't have co-signers on cash outs. And then your housing will read correctly here. So your housing's already here $1, but if you feel comfortable, you want to just add it here as well, you can, but it's already going to pick up your housing here. Because let's say this co-borrower is actually co-signer is living with his parents, he doesn't pay rent, but we need to see our DTIs matching correctly. That's where you can put it. Again, when you're ordering your credit reports, you can order it through here, or you can order it through your page 3, which is your liabilities and assets page down here, which is order credit. Me personally, I like to wait here because I like to import my liabilities. But either way, whatever you guys feel more comfortable with, you can do that. When you're ordering your credit report, just make sure that your Social Security, your date of birth, your borrower's name is correct. Only because if you guys do order it wrong, you are going to get a DU or LP error. If you ran it outside of the system, I'll go ahead and show you guys how to do that. So of course, let's say we're doing the application today. They gave us authorization today. We did it over the phone. Most of us really do. They're going to go FHA, so we're going to go 580 minimum FICO. We're going to hit order credit. It's always going to be MFI. We're going to hit submit. And it's going to actually do this when you guys have tons of borrowers, right? So let's say right now we're going to go run credit for borrower 2. So this is the cool part, is that you guys will be able to see who are you running credit for. You don't have to go page by page on the drop down. You can actually do it on page 1. And as long as your information is correct, you can click it on here. We're going to hit next. And then if you guys do get an error, guys, because I do get some people that tell me I keep getting all these crazy errors, just click OK to all of them. Input your password correctly and hit refresh products. If it doesn't give you the error again, it's because your password was not correct here. If it does give you the error, just make sure you guys are going straight to the MFI page and resetting your password. Stay on this page, reset your password, then go ahead and put the new password here and hit refresh products. And you should not get that error. If you're running credit through Encompass, you do need to complete the full information for your depending on who's paying for the credit report. Just keep in mind, guys, credit reports did go up. I believe it's $50 for individual and $110 for or $100, I think, for husband and wife. So you'll put in full information here, complete that account name and hit finish. Now, if you did run it outside of the system, just simply go here where it says request type. You're going to go ahead and hit import from website. You're going to type in your reference number. And as you can tell, this is grayed out now. You do not need to re-enter the credit card information, just your reference number here. And then you'll hit finish. And once you hit finish, it'll go ahead and start, working. I'm going to hit cancel for now because we're not actually running one. And it's going to give you another tab up here, and it's going to open your credit report. So once, I believe it's a services. Once you see that tab, you can just click back to loans, and then you'll start seeing here that your FICO scores will populate. Let me see, I got a question. There you go, George knows. 55 and 110 is what your credit costs are. Now, because you're going to have tons of borrowers here, it's not going to give you a decision-making FICO. So what I like to do, since I'm going page by page and seeing, what my borrower's FICO, I grab the mid FICO and I put it on here for now. Of course, you're going to get the lowest of the 4 applicants because we have 4 applicants here. The mid FICO, the lowest of the 4. Now, when we get to the subject property, make sure you guys are putting TBD here, not TBA, not TBS, not the address, not the street, TBD. The reason for that is, as we all know, we do have triggers, right? And it'll give you an alert here, an alert message if you guys place an address. It's going to tell you you have 3 days to disclose this loan. Let's say you have a borrower who's doing a refinance and they're not sure they want to move forward, and you place an address here. Guess what you guys are going to have to do? You're going to have, let's say they thought about it for a week. Your file is now expired. You're going to now have to restart a whole new Encompass file. So this file will no longer be valid. It will have to be canceled out because your TRID laws have now expired. So this is why we go ahead and put the TBD here, so that we'll make sure that once your borrower is ready to go, you can now allow your disclosure department to put the address for you. So we're going to go ahead and put here a zip code. You can put a zip code, just no street address. And that way, once you put the zip code, it's going to give you your county, your city. Your construction method will always be site built. If you guys don't place this here, you will get a DU error. And it doesn't matter if you guys have a TBD here. When you run DU or LP, it'll still pick up it'll still run your DU and LP based on your LTV and your DTI. Let's say our property type is a detached home. We're going to make this a purchase since we have a non-occupying co-signer. We're going to go with about what mid prices are nowadays, right? $750. Your lender program, your DTI and LTV will, your LTV will read, but your DTI will not read properly if you guys are not putting a loan program on here. So make sure you guys go to your little lookup button. And I'm going to make this an FHA loan. So with your lookup button, you guys are going to see this pop up. Once you hit the lookup button, we're going to make this a 30-year fixed purchase. And then I'm just going to hit select right here. Now, your closing costs, you don't need to put it, but if you do want to, again, you can hit your little lookup button and then you can hit your FHA because we're going to make this one FHA, whether it's conventional. You will notice we do have Arizona, Texas, on here for all your options. The reason for that is, of course, the fees are different per state. And you'll start seeing a lot more up here because we are getting, we're getting licensed in different states. So for now, we're going to go FHA, which this will be California, your FHA regular. Hit select. Again, you don't need to do that, but borrowers are getting really savvy nowadays. They're asking for estimates, because they are shopping around. Back then, they would just go with the first one, right? But now they're shopping around. So if you guys want to start showing them fees, that this is a good way to be able to go back to use your 2015 itemization, and this will populate some of the fees for you. Your loan documentation type, normally it's always full doc. You don't have to really place anything here. Me just being a little OCD, I just kind of complete my whole application all the time. Sorry. Okay, so if you scroll down, that kind of changes. So that's why I always click on the side once I've done the selection. Here, just make sure on my program selection, for some reason, my FHA always comes up armed, so I'm going to change that to fixed. But if you notice, once you select this, it's going to give you your purchase, your primary, it's FHA, it's a first, it's fixed. If this is incorrect, you probably chose the wrong program, or you can go ahead and change it manually. Now we're going to go ahead and start completing our purchase price. We are going FHA. I know rates, I'm going to just go a little bit higher just to go ahead and kind of just throw something out there. Now you notice our LTV is showing. Up here, you're going to have your guys' kind of like a little cheat sheet on what the information that you're putting up here for your borrower. So for this page, you're pretty much done. You've already completed the pretty much the basics of your client, right? Which is the initial part of your application. You've run their credit. You've placed that, hey, they're going to buy in Cerritos somewhere. They are going to go FHA. We do have several borrowers that are going to buy. It is well, for this guy, we're going to put investment, right? Because we placed him as a non-owner, but the other ones will move it. I just kind of want to show you guys how the DTI changes. So now we're going to go to the IRLA lender. The IRLA lender here is basically going to be your payment information and a little bit more about your property. So here we're saying that this is a single family that they're going to buy. For this borrower particularly, it is an investment. Your fee, and so you're gonna skip through what you don't need to complete, but I'm sorry, I should have not kind of run through it by it. But anywho, if you're doing a refinance, this is where you would give a little bit more information to your system. The purpose of the refinance, it just basically tells you whether it's a cash out, rate, and term. So that's your drop down here. Normally we do cash out other or rate and term on this drop down. You're not refinancing it with the original creditor because they're refinancing with us. So we're going to put no here. Your refinance type, if you're doing a rate and term, it's going to be limited cash out. Why? The system, when you run a DURLP, sometimes will give you an error if you put no cash out, and it tells you, rate and term refis are limited cash out refis. The reason for that is because they are allowed to receive with conventional up to 2,000 cash back, or with FHA up to 500 cash back. And because of that, your system is giving you that error. So if you guys do get that error, just make sure that in refinances, if it's a rate and term, you put limited cash out. Of course, if it's a cash out, it's a cash out. Your refinance type, if it's a streamline with or without an appraisal or a full doc here. For the year acquired, again, I'm a little OCD. I just go based on my property profile and I complete all this section here, but it's not something you need to do. We usually will help you guys out with that as well, but it's just something I do. For your estate, so now your title information, we don't do construction right now, but we are going to get into 203K so that this may be used. For lots and lands, we don't do that right now, but again, I don't say that we don't do it at all because in the future we might. As far as for title information, just make sure you guys are putting here that the estate is always fee simple. We currently do not do leasehold. Leasehold is normally a land lease. So most of California is fee simple. So if you guys want to go ahead and put fee simple here, again, that's another error that Encompass will give you if you do not complete it. Title, if you don't know title, you can just put other. And then you can if you want to here, you unlock it and you could put TBD. So now we're going to get into the mortgage information. Remember, we went ahead and completed that on page 1. So now it's gone ahead and auto-populated the information here. What you do need to complete in this section will be your proposed payment. So this is where, if you want to do a quick, you're with a borrower, it's a bunch of borrowers, they need to leave because they have to go to work, and you want to do a quick application, this is where you would go for your proposed payment. Insurance, before I did not used to do this here, but now that insurances are much higher, I usually do 20%. I know that a lot of other LOs do a little bit higher, or they do an amount. This is actually pretty normal nowadays, 120 bucks. Back then, how lucky were we to have $45 a month insurance, right? That's probably inconceivable now. But this is going to definitely calculate based on your loan amount, right? So if you want to go worst case scenario for your borrower, because we do know the insurance rates are going up just like everything else, this is going to calculate based on your loan amount. So we're going to hit OK, and that's going to populate it for you here. Your taxes, again, it's a purchase. Make sure you guys are taking a look at this here, and this is purchase price. I have seen it where we are seeing that somebody changes this to loan amount. And if you notice, it's $753.91, it'll give you a payment. When you go to purchase price, it's $781. And if you have those borrowers that are literally at that like edge of qualification, those 30 bucks can make or break your deal. If you do have a borrower that's buying a property somewhere where it has mellow roofs, so as you can tell, this is already calculating it. Excuse me. You can hit this little this other section here, and you can put here mellow roofs. Normally mellow roofs is actually divided. So let's say it's $1,200 a year, then it's $100 a month, right? Normally you will see your tax cert that will have that mellow roofs. Excuse me. So if you have a borrower who is purchasing in an area that has mellow roofs, make sure you guys are putting that in here, because this is considered your front end DTI. Now, mortgage insurance. Mortgage insurance, when you guys are doing conventional loans, of course, you guys know that you're going to be pricing out your conventional loans and then placing it in here, right? Normally, if they have a good FICO, it's like, let's say 0.65, which is actually way lower when with that, and then 0.20 at 240 months, right? And boom, this is going to calculate it for you and give you mortgage insurance. But when it comes to FHA, guys, with a certain balance, it's going to give you a higher mortgage insurance. We are used to 0.85, but if our balance, our loan amount is above a certain amount, our mortgage insurance is going to be higher. So make sure for FHA, you guys are coming in and hitting Get MI. And here's a good reason why. Because my loan amount, I believe it's 685. I can't remember it right now off the top of my head, but I believe it's 685 or 645, but I think it's 685 is your loan amount. Above that, your mortgage insurance rate goes up. So if I hit OK here, my mortgage insurance is 629. But if I manually inputted it and put 0.85, it's 509. So $120 difference. And again, if your borrower is at that cap and you guys put the wrong mortgage insurance, we're going to have to come in and correct it, and that's going to be troublesome. So make sure that for FHA, you guys are hitting your Get MI button. It's going to automatically calculate your upfront mortgage as well as your base amount here monthly. Of course, if let's say your borrower qualified for 750, but they went for a cheaper house, make sure you're always updating that, because then you guys can also calculate that. Association dues, if you have an FHA here, they're buying a condo or a PUD that has an association, make sure you guys are placing that here, because now you're going to have your total payment amount here. For this page, that's the biggest thing here, so you guys want to make sure you guys do that. And then if you do have any seller credits, so the rest of the stuff, you guys don't need to complete this section here. But if you do have seller credits, that will be in this section here. So let's say the seller is going to credit us some money to buy down the rate. Let's put 20,000. Want some money. So this is where you guys would put your seller credits, and you're letting us know that you are aware and that, you know, we're either going to get an amendment later or it's already on your purchase agreement that they're going to get a credit. Now, the rest of this stuff here is you're going to see your home buyer education and the home buyer counseling. They did separate it as far as the education and the counseling, simply because, as we know, if we've done any CaliHFA loans, you can do the home buyer education portion online, but the counseling has to be over the phone. So if they're doing any CalHFA, any down payment assistance, we do have the Fannie, 3% down. Like any home, of course, it's not the first time home buyer FHA, but any down payment assistance programs, home ready, home possible, we do need to have them complete that. If this is not that, you just simply put no. If it is, then we of course will put yes, and then it'll ask you to complete, whether they attended in person. It'll ask you to complete the agency information, and normally that's on their certificate. So that's super easy information you guys can grab from their certificate. And that is it for the lender. So now for your page 1 of your IRLA. So this information here on the page 1 is going to be mostly their residency information, and of course where they, where they reside and all that. But remember, a lot of this stuff does get transferred from your borrower summary origination. So here we want to know, is the borrower a U.S. citizen, permanent resident, or non-permanent resident? If they are a non-permanent resident, just put here the country of citizenship. Normally, I go in and I just put DACA, because I'm going to have I want it to kind of like stand out for my processors, right? For them to know, hey, they're DACA. And then I will put, let's say Mexico. That's what I do, simply because I like to go ahead and let my processors know what type of citizenship this borrower has, right? They're a non-permanent resident. If they're a U.S. citizen, of course, we just click U.S. citizen. Permanent resident, just make sure you guys are getting their front and back of their residence card copy. Marital status, again, just what their marital status, whether married, separated, unmarried. If they're unmarried, is there somebody who can claim legal spouse? So just keep that in mind. I do ask my borrowers that, because there are people that will come and claim domestic partnership. So you want to make sure you're asking that information. So whether it's a yes or no, if they are in a domestic partnership, you want to make sure you ask them what type. Is it actually a civil union, a domestic partnership, or a registered relationship? What state? If they have dependents, of course, whether they have any dependents and their ages. So now we're going to go ahead and keep going through. Sorry, guys, my light keeps coming off over here because I'm not moving. Your current residency, again, this is going to populate from your first page that we already did, so we can skip through that. We know we don't have former addresses, but you are going to get to the mailing address. So for this particular borrower, we can just put same as current, because we know that they're still going to live here with their parents and not going to move. So they're just going to get any mail, anything towards them to that mailing address. For your current borrower who is actually going to live at that property, you can choose to go ahead and complete that information if it's not going to be the current, or you could just click same as current. This will also have your military service information. If they're any military, if they're in active duty, of course, you'll click yes, and it'll ask you some information if they're retired, discharged, or in active duty or surviving spouse. If it's not military, you just click no. Your language preference, we do have English and Spanish speakers here. We don't have other languages yet, but maybe we will soon. But what this is important is if you do have a loan officer assistant or a processor who is going to speak to your client, just let them know what the language preference is, because that'll definitely help as well here in this application. Of course, this is also part of the HMDA stuff. So if you guys complete the better. It's better for us to know because, of course, we internally are not taking the application, so we don't know the language your borrower speaks. So now that one was super easy. We're going to go to your page 2. Your page 2 is going to be all mostly employment. So, of course, you know, I work at ICOR. The more you complete here, the better it is for us as your processing team and underwriting team to go ahead and find the information for your HR. A lot of us loan officers don't tend to ask our borrowers for HR. Because I worked internally here with processing and underwriting, I do tend to do that as a loan officer. But when I was initially a loan officer and not an internal person, I didn't ask for that, right? But the more information you complete here, the better for us, because in that way we can search for the information and find who the HR department is. And the less, you know, the less research we have to do, the easier. If you do want to help your team here, you can definitely ask your borrower. Your borrowers know who are they going to call in sick, right? That's normally what I always ask. Who are you calling to call in sick? Because normally that's either a supervisor or HR. So that's usually the phone number that I ask for here, because if they're going to, you know, when we call in sick, oh, we know who we're going to call. So they're going to give you that phone number. Their title, you know, we can put their title in here. Of course, this can change. Now, if you don't have a date here and start date or years, the system is going to give you an error when you run DU or LP. So you definitely want to do that. If they don't remember, you can just simply put the first of the month, right? So I started. So basically, you could put August 1st. I didn't start August 1st. I started December 1st. Oh, yeah. So it doesn't do that. So you got to start it all over, right? If you're going to put the name. But having that here will actually help you be able to when you run DURLP, it's going to say what their year length is on the job. I'm sorry, I brain farted for a second. Now, if you do have, like they tell you, oh, this is who I call, this is a company phone number, but I do have my HR's information, you can actually go to your show RVOL and it's going to give you a information here. So you can actually place an actual additional person, the title, and it'll have an attention to here. So who would it be attention to? Oh, well, you know, my HR is Lauren. So I know that Lauren can go ahead and, you know, get that information for you. And you know what? Her email address is this. You know what I'm saying? So you're able to complete the information if you want to, if your borrower is actually receptive to giving you that information at that moment. So you can. I just want to show you guys where you just simply hit show all VOEs and you'll be able to go ahead and have the attention to. And then this just saves your processing team a little bit of a step of having to find who to get that from. Income. If you guys are doing income for self-employed borrowers, again, just remember if this is a self-employed borrower who is at Schedule C or 1120s or anything like that, that you're looking at their shares, whether it's 25% or more or 25% or less. And you're clicking on that, and then you put your income here. So I'm going to put that this borrower makes lots of money but lives with dad. That's where they make a lot of money. And then you can tell here my DTI is a little bit different, right? My DTI is a little weird in the front. Why? Because he is a co-signer to this loan. And we're only hitting him with $1 for rent because he's not paying rent. If I remove that dollar, this is going to be completely blank. And I have LOs that are a little OCD like me that come and tell me, why is my DTI not reading? Well, that's why, because you don't have an actual liability for your front end ratio. It's going to go ahead and gray out the rest of the items because, of course, as we know, a self-employed borrower does not get overtime bonus or commission. Let's say this is not a self-employed borrower and you are going to be giving them income. The cool part about this system is you can hit your little base button and it's going to give you the frequency of your paychecks and all that good stuff that you guys can calculate it here already. The one thing for FHA is you definitely need to calculate only overtime bonus and commission is only going to be the previous 2 years, not year to date. So FHA is averaging, but if you have a borrower who has who just got a raise, let's say they went from just a regular employee to a supervisor position, you can give them their current base rate. So but if you have a borrower who has a declining income, FHA is going to average it no matter what, even if they just got a raise, because they have declining income. So you guys want to make sure you're asking your borrower all these good questions. So let's say my borrower gets paid semi-monthly, and make sure you guys are looking at semi-monthly and biweekly. I do have a income calculation on that course that I can shoot you guys over if you guys want to look at. But just make sure you guys are looking at that. If you hit hourly, cool part is if they get paid 15 bucks an hour, 40 bucks and 40 hours a week, boom, it just calculated my income for me. They do get overtime, so we just averaged it, they made 133.83. So I'm just, let's say we do that. But remember, this is the last 2 years. So since we're in 2023, we can use 22 and 21 now. Because we know COVID year was ugly, at least we got better years to come, right? So we can do that. If this borrower was not working here less than 2 years, make sure you guys are putting your previous employers here. Now, let's say you're going through the application, the borrower was only there a year, so you putting the previous employee, and then we put a lending company, and we start putting the information here. And then we realize, oh my God, this is additional. This is not the previous. No worries. Hit your show all. Go to that company that was previous. Scroll down. On employment, hit prior. And then hit close. And then it disappears from here. And it is down here in your previous. So the system is super easy to use. You just got to make sure you guys are taking a look at all, I know I've done it before and I'm like, and I have to delete and retype. Well, now you don't. You can go ahead and, do that. So now for here, let's say they didn't have an additional, we just click does not apply. But let's say you have a borrower who has more than one employment. So let's say they are, they are working a certain amount of hours, getting paid a certain amount an hour, but they're also self-employed. Well, or let's say they have a second job. You can type in your second job here, but just to make sure you guys do keep in mind a second job, they have to have it for a minimum of 2 years consecutively with this job here, or I'm sorry, concurrently with this job here. So just keep that in mind, guys. They do have to have it for a certain period of time. And then you can place that second job and that second income here as well. So let's say it is self-employment. They're 25% owners, but they're making, let's say they're making $2,500 a month on that one. Well, now your DTI has changed because now you have a base income here. Let's say this borrower works at that job, is self-employed, and is getting Social Security income. Well, your Social Security income would be down here. So let's say my borrower is also getting Social Security, and we have the Social Security income here. So your Social Security income is not going to be up here at any shape or form. If you have a borrower that only makes Social Security, you can just simply click the does not apply button on all of the sections here, and then go straight down to the income source here. So in this section, you'll see that it's Social Security, pension, you have disability, because we can use permanent disability. Of course, we do have to have that continuance, and we have to prove that. Child support can be placed here. Alimony can be placed here. Foster care. So foster care can be placed there. We have had borrowers that are straight foster care and they've purchased properties. So just we had a borrower who made royalties. That's all he made. His income was simply royalties. I think he was like something with Tupac. It was cool. We did his loan and he had royalties. All he made was royalties. So his income will be here. And then you will place an income here. Let's say he makes $1,500 off of that. And again, your DTI will change now. So any type of additional income that is not a monthly income or self-employed would go down here. Now, remember guys, these are drop downs. These are not where you can actually, you can have the other, but we are gonna need to have an explanation as to what it is. And of course, it has to be sourceable. For instance, we have had borrowers that actually come in and have a retirement account that is large and it pays them out monthly. You can have that. That is usable income. I believe it's dividends, something like that. I don't remember the name right now, but they're paying themselves from their retirement accounts. And now that's how they're making their monthly income, as so long as they have a 3-year continuance and there's sufficient funds to be able to cover, all this good stuff, you can use it. So now we're done with your page 2. So remember, page 2 is your income. Page 3 will be your assets and liabilities. And it's also going to have your REO section here. So borrower's income, of course, pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to show you guys where to put several types of assets. This particular section here, your 2A, is going to only be whether it's a checking savings account, money market, any retirement account like a 401k. You do not place income here. I'm sorry, gift of equities, gifts, or cash out from other properties on here. And I'm going to show you guys where. So let's say we have a checking account and it's Bank of America. We put the account number. If you want, you can put the last 4. That's okay, as long as we can source with the, we can match, the account that it's going to be with your source of funds. Whether it's jointly or not jointly, just make sure you guys are also letting them know, like, let's say, for instance, it's a mom and daughter, and the daughter is the main person, but the mom, is another person on the account. You are going to need a 100% access letter. We need to make sure that the other person, the mom, is signing off saying, hey, my daughter has full access to that account. We have 12,500 on there. So now we just have those incomes, right? You can add more as you go, of course. Where you would put any type of cash out or anything from, if there is no assets from any other account, is here. But let's say my borrower is selling their property, or they're getting, they're refinancing another property to buy this property. This is where you guys would put that. So you can put that here, pending net sales from a real estate asset. Let's say they're selling another property and they want to buy this property with that. This is where you would put that here. You would put the pending net sales, and then you put your cash out amount. Let's say they have that value, but they're going FHA because maybe they have ugly FICOs. So anywho, we can put pending net sales from real estate assets here. And I'll show you guys the gift. The gift is actually on page 4. I know it's not here, which you would think it's here, but I'll show you guys where that's at. For your liabilities, let's say we ran credit on page 1 when we were doing the first part of the borrower summary, and we didn't import the liabilities. Here is where you would hit your import liabilities. Now it's going to tell me, of course, that I have no liabilities to import because I don't have a credit report in here, but it will populate a page just like this, bigger, with all your liabilities. It will only check mark the liabilities with balances on them, or collections, or anything else that might have like a deferred payment, like student loans or anything like that. And we're going to hit OK on that. But once we hit OK to import, it'll automatically import all of your income. Your liabilities here. Let's say, for instance, your borrower, you notice when you were doing this, it said County of LA, and it said it's an installment. And you're like, wait a minute, what is this? And they're like, oh yeah, I have child support. You're like, oh, great. Well, it says here that your balance is only $750. How much do you really owe? Oh no, I have to pay that monthly because my kid is only, 6 years old. Okay. Keep in mind, guys, when you see this, your DTI is automatically gonna jump up, of course. But when you run DU on FHA, of course, LP unconventional, if you're doing DU or LP unconventional, your DTI is going to show less. You're going to end up seeing this DTI. The reason for that is it's an installment account. When you're seeing an installment account with less than 10 payments, your DU, excuse me, your DU or LP is automatically going to exclude that. So the way that I do this here, because you can change this, and it's funny because it actually gives you a childcare section here, or you could change it to other. For some reason or another, it's not going to read that. So what I do, and again, this is just an Encompass error or glitch, if you want to call it. What I do when it comes to these installments is I go down here, hit borrower. Here, if they have any alimony, child support, any other payments, like let's say they owe the IRS, and they have installment payments, this is where you're going to put that here. So you're going to put child support, and you're going to put that amount. You're going to see that my DTI is going to double, right? Or not double, but it's going to double hit it here. Now my DTI is 112. Don't worry. Go here to your show all VOL, which is show all liabilities. And you're going to scroll down on your creditor comments, put moved to other. And then you'll go ahead and now exclude the liability. And then we're going to hit close. And now we'll know that no, our DTI went back to that original 101. The reason for that is because now your DU is going to read that this installment is a child support and they still have that monthly payment. And it's going to give you what steps you need to take for that installment amount. Now, let's say you do see an installment, not a lease, an installment that says Audi. They have a car with Audi. And they have, they owe $4,000 and their payment is, their payment is $560. Anytime you see anything like this and it's less than 10 payments, you can exclude it. But keep in mind, guys, that with FHA, their monthly payment must be under 5% of their monthly income. That's with FHA. So just keep that in mind, because I have seen it when some people exclude it, but the FHA guideline does read that this monthly payment must be under 5% or 5% and under of their gross monthly income. So what does that mean? If basically their income, I don't know if this has a calculator here, and I lost my phone. Oh, here it is. So let's say our income for this borrower, total income is, here we have a total income of 6783.54. We're going to multiply that by 5%. So the payment should be under $339. But my payment is $560. Well, guess what, guys? Because of the guideline, you cannot exclude it. Okay, so keep that in mind. But let's just say this is conventional. You can go ahead and hit your show all. You're going to go to your installment. And just keep in mind, guys, make sure it's an installment and not a lease payment. If it's a lease, you cannot exclude it. We're going to go to our installment. And what you're going to do is you're not going to exclude it here. You're going to simply, and I just want to go show you guys your DTI is 110, right? 110.110. We're going to place 10 here. And as you can see, my DTI went back down. The reason for that is the guideline, again, does read, if your balance based on your payment is less than 10 payments away from this installment being paid off, you can exclude it. And just keep in mind, just to reiterate, it's installment loans only, not revolving and not lease payments. And then, of course, you guys want to make sure you guys are looking at your payment here. Another thing that I do notice that's, that we can do is make sure you're looking at your credit report. What if your payment is under $339? But your balance here is $4,000. But your credit report is reporting just, let's say, November as your last payment. But they did make a payment in December and January. You want to make sure they're giving you a statement to show that they've made those two payments. Because now, let's say I've made two payments, and guess what? My balance is under that amount. So you can actually go in and manually update this amount, and let your and then you can put a comment up here. You can pay You can say credit report shows November payment. Borrower has made 2 more payments. Right? So now you're letting your underwriter, your processor know, hey, the reason I updated my balance from my credit report is because I'm going to give you a statement showing that the balance is lower. So therefore I can exclude this account. So, there's a lot of good little things that you guys can do to be able to have, you can update these amounts. You don't have to go full on a credit report, because at this point, sometimes we have to look at the last reported date, right? And I do have a credit report class as well, if you guys want to take a look at that one. So that is it for your assets, any assets from the proceeds of a sale, and your liabilities. And any liability expenses are here. Of course, again, if you guys do have an other, like let's say they owe the IRS and you put other, you can put your installment amount there. And it does go here. It does not go here in your liabilities. It's going to go down here because remember, it's not something that's showing on their credit report. It'll go here. The only thing you do add here is, let's say, for instance, they do have a mortgage and you need that mortgage showing here because maybe the mortgage was under the dad's name, but he's paying for it. Then you would put that up here on your liabilities. And you can manually input that. If this is full, you can just simply hit show all VOL, and then you can add your little add button here and then start completing the information. And that just, again, just showing you guys that sometimes your borrowers do have more than 5 items and you need more space. So that's how you would put that here. Now, again, same for here. If you guys need to add more liabilities, you just show all other and you can add more. Now going into the real estate portion, if this is a borrower who does not own, of course, we're just going to does not own. If they do own a property, this is something that I do have some people asking me. If let's say they have Schedule E's on their you can start typing the information here. Let's say it's owned by borrower. And let's say they use it as a primary residence, but they're going to occupy it as an investment now because let's say they're moving out of that property. You can start putting that information here, but your rental income here is not going to populate correctly. You can link your mortgages here. Let's say we hit link mortgage. This was our mortgage and we hit OK. It's going to now link that mortgage on here. Of course, it's saying that it's not associated because we haven't put any information on there, right? I didn't complete anything here. But let's say it is a mortgage. So this is how you would link it here. I'm sorry. You would link it here and it's linking it there now. So now it's letting me that it's okay because my borrower has that liability, right? But if you are going to be using certain like departing income for a property, you guys want to make sure you're hitting, and I'll do it again, sorry, your show all VOM and going into your actual REO here. And you are going to need to complete certain items. How many units is it? Well, it's 1 unit. Or 2 units. The property is on hold, being held because now I'm using it as a rental. What kind of property is it? It's a single family. Of course here, self-explanatory information. Gross rental income. Well, I'm going to be getting $2,500 for the property. But remember, guys, we're not getting that income from our taxes. If you're not getting that income from your taxes, you do need to put a percentage of rental here of 75%. So that's going to change your DTI here. Because if you leave that blank, your DTI is going to be less, right? But remember, this is giving you your net income, but you don't have a net income. Now, our mortgage right now that it's picking up that I attached, it doesn't have a balance, but let's say we do have a balance. Let me just give it a monthly amount. And I hit show all VOM. My monthly amount is now going to be subtracted here. And my DTI is going to be different. So you guys are wanting to make sure that you're doing that. Let's say, for instance, that mortgage statement does not include my taxes and insurance. So you're going to want to grab your taxes and insurance. Let's say our taxes are $5,500 a year, plus our insurance is $1,200. We're going to divide that by 12. You're going to grab this $558.33 and place it here. And now our monthly net is less and our DTI is higher. But I'm only going to get 75% of that because it's a departing unit. Again, now my DTI is higher because I'm giving the percentage of rental, not the participation. It's always percentage of rental. But let's say this actual property is on my Schedule E, then we'll put 100%. But it's an investment to an investment, right? So that changes things a little bit. So now, as you can tell, if I'm giving it 100%, but it's automatically doing the math for me and giving me my net income or net loss, depending on what it is. But this gross rental income, again, I do have a Schedule E class where you guys can take a look at how to calculate that. Now, let's say it's a refi and it's a subject property. You just hit subject property and it'll automatically go ahead and do that, populate all the information on here for you. Again, as many properties as they have, they can add them here. If you don't have them, they have more than 3 properties, you simply hit show all VOM and hit your plus button here, and it'll automatically populate this telling you, is there a lien? If there's not, you just hit OK. And it'll automatically give you the new REO so you can complete. And last but not least, your page 4. Your page 4, again, it's going to automatically populate most of the information from all the other pages that we completed. Here, again, construction method, even though we did it on the borrower summary origination page, you got to do it again here, whether it's site built or manufactured. Most of the time it's site built. We're going to complete that here. And the reason, again, for that is because if you don't do it, DU or LP is going to tell you that you have an error. The does not apply button here. This is basically if they're not going to obtain any other new mortgage with this deal. Let's say they're doing Cal HFA. So you do need to make sure your LTV is running correctly here. So we are going to click if they are obtaining that type of loan, a Cal HFA down payment assistance, this is where you would add it. So you're simply going to hit view all additional loans. You're going to do a plus sign button here. It is going to be for the borrower. Let's say we're doing Cal HFA. We're doing just the first. And I'll do a first and a second. So I'm going to put another one here and it'll automatically populate the Cal HFA because it's going to copy that first that I just did right now, right? So for this, it's going to be a mortgage because it's not a HELOC. It's actually a mortgage and it's in lien position number 2. The amount that they're going to get is they're going to actually end up getting, where's my amount? Here it is. So let's say they're going to get that 3.5% down. So it's $26,250. So now I have my first loan amount, right? But there is no monthly principal, so that doesn't matter because there's no monthly payment. My second is going to be for the closing cost. So again, account type is a mortgage. It's not a HELOC. It is in third position because I do have my loan here is my first position. For that, they're going to only get $10,000. Let's just say, I'm just going to make that up. We're going to place that here. And that's always with your loan amount. And now I'm going to hit close. Your DTI is going to update based on that. So if you notice, you now have your first, which is your loan amount here, second and third. And it's going to let us know, hey, they're going to do down payment assistance. Now, if it doesn't apply, of course, you just hit does not apply. This here is, let's say they're buying units. This property here that they're buying is particularly units. It's, I know it's a bunch of borrowers, but the house in the front is 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, and they all fit in the front house. But the back unit has, let's say it's a 4-plex. It's, they're all 1 bedroom, 1 bath. Well, I'm just going to make it up that they're $1,200 each, even though we know that rents are way higher than that. So we're going to put $3,600. The occupancy rate that you're going to give here is always going to be 75%. And the reason for that is because remember, we're giving them less than what they would actually receive because it's potential rents. It's not actual rents they're receiving now. If this, excuse me, if this was a refinance and the refinance is the property they're refinancing and they're collecting rents and this $3,600 is on their actual Schedule E, then of course this occupancy rate goes 100%. And remember, you want to put it here and here on your REO when it's the subject property that you're refinancing. The reason for that is because your DTI needs to match. It's, again, these are just little tiny glitches from Encompass. If this is the subject property you're refinancing, you will place your gross rental income here as well as your page 4. So if it does not apply, of course, does not apply. Gifts and grants. If your borrower is not getting a gift and grant, of course, you just put does not apply. But if they are, this is where you would place that. Let's say you have a brother and sister who are getting rid of their parents' property, but the brother wants to keep it and the sister doesn't. But they've already divided the assets. The property came in at value at 600,000, but obviously it's going to be 300 and 300. Well, you can do a gift of equity here because it does become a purchase, not a refi. So this would be gift of property equity. It's not deposited. The source is going to be a relative. And then you would put the cash value here. Now, if this is not a gift of equity, this is actually a gift of cash. The mom is giving them some money. It's not in their bank account. Mom still has it in her account. You're going to put deposited. No, it's a parent, and they're going to give them $30,000. Then you will place that here. So this is where your gift comes. And of course, your system, once you run DU or LP, is going to let you know what you need to provide to us to source these funds. If you put deposited, the system is automatically going to pick up the assets here based on this account. So if it is deposited, make sure you do put deposited here, here, and you update this amount up here by 30,000. The reason for that is because we're still going to need to source it. You still need to place it on both sections. It's not going to pick up 30,000 plus 42,000. It's going to pick up the 42,000, and this is going to show, hey, we have a gift of cash from the parent, and it was 30,000 that is now deposited into their account. That is for the deposited. If you put deposited, is going to source the funds up here. Just keep that in mind, guys, because it won't source them down here. So if it's not a part of that cash, make sure you're putting no on deposited, because now it will pick it up as a source of funds for your DU and LP. The rest, of course, is your declarations. Just make sure you guys are reading these questions at least once so that you guys know the, what the answers would be. Normally, when you're having a conversation with your client, you kind of would know how to answer these questions. If you don't, just ask them, will you occupy the property as a primary residence? Remember, we did this guy as an investment, so we're going to put no. All our other borrowers are going to be yes, right? So you guys want to make sure, do you own a property? Well, no, he's living with his parents. This is a purchase transaction. Do you have any family relationship or affiliation to the seller? Let's say, for instance, this was that gift of equity, then yes, they are affiliated to the seller. They're, but if they're not, you just put no. If it's a refi, you don't have to answer this because, of course, it does not apply. Are you borrowing money for the real estate transaction? Yes, you are, but in reality, it's not a separate payment that you are not counting on your page 4 up here. So in reality, you don't have to put yes on that one. So you are borrowing money, but it's not from, and it'll tell you here, another party such as a seller or realtor. So in reality, it's a no. So this is nothing to do with CalHFA or down payment assistance. Have you or will you be applying for another mortgage? I had one of our other LOs come in the other day and ask me, hey, I want to run these 2 refinances consecutively. So this is where you would say yes. Yes, I am borrowing money for another transaction. And this is where I told him, make sure that you put an explanation here. I usually tell him, concurrent loan with another refi, and then put the loan number. So this is where you would disclose that other loan application. Of course, if they're not and they're just borrowing from this house, and it's a no. Will you be applying for new credit? Obviously, we want to tell them, please do not apply for new credit. We're giving you your qualification based on your current assets and liabilities. So don't apply for any installment loans. Because I've had clients that are like, well, what if, my mom's telling me that I can help her with her house and it's not going to affect me? Yes, it is. I basically told him, I'm like, look, does it affect you, FICO score wise and all that? Not necessarily because it's an asset. I go, but you're trying to buy a house. How am I going to prove that 2 months from now that the house is just your mom's and not yours when I need 12 months payments from her saying that it's only her property and she's only liable? So that's when they're like, oh, yes, it does affect. So I always go in ahead and explain these little things to them. Will this property be subject to another lien that will be in first position? Unless you're doing a HELOC, this is a no. Now, it does tell you, will it have a clean energy? Now, as you guys know, right now, if you're buying a new construction, the law came through that you must have solar panels. So just make sure you guys are asking for that. Now, this is where I've been asked a couple of times, solar panels, guys, are a liability. They are not your front end ratio. They are a liability. So you do want to add them. You can go down here, you hit borrower, you hit other, and then you put solar panel, if I can spell it. And then you put your monthly amount. So remember, it's going to hit your back end DTI, not your front end, because it's a liability. It's not a part of your front end DTI. Let me see what else. Where were we?
Question on the solar panels.
Yes.
That's only if they choose to lease and not just purchase outright, correct?
Yeah, well, it's if they have a monthly payment. So let's say, for instance, they're buying a property.
Right.
If they're buying a property and the seller is saying, well, you have to assume my loan, whether it's a lease or a purchase,
right,
we're going to hit him with the liability. So only not front end ratio.
Okay. And on new construction with the laws that you were mentioning, that's California?
Yes, so for right now, as far as I know, it's only California that we have seen that they are, I believe it was as of 2020, I don't remember, but I'm going to look it up. But they start saying new construction homes had to have solar panel and clean energy. Mm-hmm. So that you're definitely going to be seeing for sure solar panels on those. Now, some of these builders are adding it to the purchase price. Some are not. So you guys want to make sure you guys are asking that.
Okay.
Again, on your finances, are you a co-signer to any debt that is not disclosed in your application? Remember, this is something that is not on their credit report. Are there any judgments, any delinquent or federal defaults? Keep in mind, if it's FHA, if they have federal debt and it's in default, we're going to have a CAVERS hit. So that's something that you guys want to make sure you're asking them, especially if you see their credit report. I do have a credit report, and I'll look it up for you guys, and maybe in a credit class, I'm going to add it to the credit class. When they have a CAVERS hit, you can automatically tell on their credit report because it'll say it's a federal default loan. So if you have a federal default loan on their credit report, you guys want to make sure you can ask your processor, hey, can you run CAVERS on this? I want to make sure if they have a CAVERS hit, because if they do, your borrower cannot go FHA. They're going to have to go conventional. So if your DTI is not working because of that, you're going to have to find somebody else to co-sign for them, or you're going to have to remove that person and reduce your qualification. So just keep in mind, this federal debt or default on federal debt is huge. Are they a party to a lawsuit where they're going to have personal financial liability? Why do we want to know that? Are they going to have to make monthly payments? We need, you know what I'm saying? So foreclosures, short sales, deed in lieu of foreclosure or foreclosed upon, bankruptcies. Make sure you guys are just putting yes if they did have it in the past 7 years, and go off of the actual foreclosure date, the short sale date, or your discharged or dismissed date. So if your discharge or dismiss date was 7 years ago as of yesterday, you don't have to put that here. But if it's as of today, well, it's still 7 years, so you hit yes and you want to put the chapter. And again, this is just so that your DURLP will let you know, basically what we need from them to make sure that, what their responsibility was with the bankruptcy. And especially, if they have certain debt that's on there that might be on the bankruptcy, hey, we can clear that for them. I've had that happen with a client before. The rest is going to be your demographics. So make sure that you guys are putting whether you did a face-to-face or telephone. We know that most of our clients right now, we're kind of doing telephone interviews. And just put here, not applicable if you're doing telephone. Again, this is for your HMDA. We do get a lot of HMDA errors because we don't get a lot of the stuff completed. So make sure you guys are putting that here. If you did do a face-to-face and you did not, and basically asks you, did you collect it based on a visual, observance or the surname? Well, you can put no or not applicable. Most of the time I ask my clients a little bit like, they don't this, because sometimes they do get offended, but some don't. So ethnicity, whether it's, Hispanic, what if they're from El Salvador? You got to put that here. What if they're from Guatemala? They're not Mexican, Puerto Rican, or Cuban. So you want to put that here. A lot of the times they don't like disclosing that. So of course you want to click these two if they don't want to disclose it. And it has to be both. So I do not wish to provide the information and information not provided. If they are going to give you the disclosure information, letting you know they're Hispanic or Mexican or not Hispanic or Latino, I've had it happen where they don't want to put white because they're like, I'm not white, I'm Mexican. So you can place here, I do not wish to provide the information or the not applicable. Again, I've had clients that get offended, so just make sure you guys are completing it because they do look at this. Again, male, female, or they don't want to go ahead and disclose that information. And that is it. So, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. This was, again, a lot of our LOs were asking to go ahead and navigate through Encompass. So I did show you guys as regards to the income because I did have a few that were asking me for it. But just remember, of course, if you have several borrowers, of course, you're going to go through their income page and do their income information on their sections. And then their DTI is always going to look weird. So I'm going to kind of go show you guys. If their DTI is going to look always crazy and higher. Oh, and keep in mind, you won't get a DTI if you guys don't place what type of borrower this is. So make sure you guys go to your origination page and put here what type of borrower. Well, this is my primary borrower. So now I'm getting a really crazy DTI, right? Well, that doesn't matter because the DTI that matters is your first page. So you always want to go to your first borrower and that's the DTI you guys want to look at. This is always going to throw you off. You're going to see this all the time whenever you have whether one borrower, two borrowers, but just make sure you guys are going to those borrowers and clicking what type of borrower these borrowers are going to be, whether they're going to be primary, investment, second home, however it is. And that way, once you're placing your income and liabilities, it's actually going to pick up that DTI from those income and liabilities. Because if you don't put that, it's not going to pick that up. But again, go to your first borrower, and that's going to be from your drop down here. It's going to give you your borrower one, and that's where your DTI is going to matter. And then I see a little chat here. On this one, it won't let me run DU, but I will pretend. So I'm going to go to start. The way we run DU here is let's say we have this beautiful completed application. We've already inputted all the income, all the liabilities, all the great stuff for these, 4 borrowers. Where you run DU LP is going to go to services. You're going to go to request underwriting. And in this particular one, of course, it's not going to run it. For FHA and Fannie, it's going to always be DO. Why don't we do DU? I don't know. For our system, it's DO. If you're going to do conventional Freddie, this is where your Freddie would be. So let's say I go Fannie, and then mine is probably going to give me an error simply because I don't have my logins and passwords, but you're going to hit submit. And then it's going to come to here for that, and then you're going to hit submit to DO for ePass. And it's going to give me an error because I don't have actual credits and all that good stuff. So see, now it's telling me to select a provider, right? Because I don't have credit reports. I don't have none of that. So you guys are not going to experience this error because you guys are actually going to have credit reports and all that good stuff. But this is what you would do: submit DO for ePass. And that's on your services, request underwriting. Let me see, any other questions? Do you guys have any other questions? You guys can unmute if you want.
Jael, this was a very good class. Thank you so much.
You're very
Um,
welcome.
It's really detailed. Do you mind sending that at least to managements or to the whole team? You know, I feel it's a good to, like, if you get stuck on something, you can always go back and refresh and not have to bug you guys unless we really have to.
Absolutely. So what we're doing right now is David created a YouTube page for us on Friday because the links that we were giving to you guys for the Dropbox, they were kind of like really big. So what we're going to do is all these, usually within 1 or 2 days, David will upload them and crop them and put them into the YouTube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and send you guys the links as soon as I have them available. For sure, I can share them with you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, and we are going to upload all the old ones, which were, you know, of course, we have a credit report class. The Schedule C, Schedule E class was together. Basic income, reviewing DUNLP. I did switch up some of the classes only because I did have a couple LOs asking me about 1120s. So I'm going to do a basic 1120s and K1 next Tuesday. So stay tuned, guys. And if you guys don't have any more questions, that's pretty much it for today. I ran a little bit longer today. Thank you all so much for attending. And then again, any feedback, please feel free to email me on any classes that you guys would want to see. Thank you.